if you are running any sort of marketing agency or any sort of service-based business, there are not that many people that you should be listening to above this man that I'm sitting next to right here, Oscar Garcia. He's been scaling his agency like crazy recently. He's been a long-time client of mine, and yeah, I'm super excited to chat today and just hear a little bit about the journey, the challenges. Obviously, you know, we've shared a few good memories along the way, and a few of the biggest challenges, a few of the biggest breakthroughs, etc.
Yep.
So I think it'll be really valuable for anyone watching this video to kind of hear about a bit of what it's actually like running an agency. Because you go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok or wherever, YouTube, and you kind of see people just talking about how they sign, you know, retainer here, retainer there, 100K a month, 1,000,000% profit margin, like Lambos and stuff. But I think you're probably a really good example of scaling, hitting massive challenges, plateauing, feeling like shit, and then just continuing and then reaping the rewards after. So super keen for this video. And yeah, do you want to start off, just introduce yourself, give us a bit of background about kind of where you were, if you cast your mind all the way back to when we started working together, compared to now where, you know, we're kind of looking pretty juicy and looking pretty good. So feel free to just go as long as you want. I think it was back to last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Leo said, Leo and I have known each other for quite a while now, a couple of years. I feel like we, you know, came into this whole online money agency space, you know, at a roughly similar time. We're roughly the same age. And really we've kind of just grown together. You know, you and I have sort of, you know, hit highs together, you know, hit a few lows together, and obviously we've been open and sharing that as well. But yeah, a bit about my story, a bit of a background. So I came into the agency space pretty much, I want to say, straight out of high school. So played around with e-com, you know what I mean? You know, the usual story where, you know, if you're looking to get into the online space, you try out a bunch of different, you know, biz ops, business models, you know, you want to do e-com, drop shipping, this and that. So doubled around with that pretty much straight out of high school. I was at uni, dropped out of uni, sort of good going all in on business. Didn't know exactly what it is I wanted to do. You know, played around with a bunch of different business models, e-com specifically, and tried to run that up. And, you know, it went well. I made a bit of profit here and there, but nothing like crazy. Eventually, you know, came crashing down. Typical e-com story with,
Classic.
with you know, chargebacks, drop shipping, you know, everything kind of just goes ass up pretty quick. So, yeah, sort of just, you know, was looking at a different business model, wanted to rebuild from there. Knew I wanted to do something in business. So, kind of just pivoted and, you know, joined a couple programs, couple agency programs, you know, got into email marketing without really thinking about it, kind of just jumped all in and, you know, just gave it a crack. And, you know, it was kind of just like blind confidence, I guess. It's like, you know, you don't know there's competition, you don't know much about the agency space, so you just kind of go all in on it. And that's exactly what I did. And I had some success pretty quick. So when Leo and I linked up, I was probably, you know, around 10 to 15K a month in retainers, which was, you know, great at the time. I was, you know, a young kid out of high school, which was awesome. And then, yeah, I mean, I met Leo and he sort of, you know, looked into my business and, you know, we kind of, you know, formed a bit of a partnership from there where, you know, Leo was, you know, an early sort of growth partner for the business. And then from there, you know, things have been, like Leo said, up and down. It hasn't always been, you know, highs, but, you know, highs and lows. So, you know, like Leo said, you know, we reach sort of new highs and then you kind of contract a little bit as, you know, your operations break. You know, the sales aren't coming in as like they once were, et cetera, and you kind of just go through the ups and downs of it. But yeah, I guess sort of I want to say in the last year is sort of where we've really seen the most growth. So, you know, signing a bunch of clients, you know, we sort of reached a plateau, I want to say, at the start of the year, this year where, you know, everything was going really well. We were able to bring in new leads, sign new clients, and it was great. But, you know, what happens with agencies, and something that most people don't talk about, is operations can get really tense. And if you're still in the weeds of the business, it can be really hard to scale beyond a certain point because you bring in a bunch of clients. Obviously, you have to fulfill for all those clients. And if you're still stuck doing the actual work, doing the actual service delivery, it can, you know, you can just...
It's like having 50 jobs.
100%. 50 different clients. Everyone wants to call you. You know what I mean? It's just, it just gets too much. So, you know, we made a 3-month plan from there really at the start of the year where it was like, okay, I've been so focused on scaling, but it's come to a point now where I really need to learn about the operations and the internal structure of what an actual business looks like. Because it's like, when you come straight out of high school to start a business, you have no experience working in a business. You don't really know what that looks like, right? And, you know, I sort of had to go back and ask the right guys for help. What does your operations look like? And sort of build a real team from scratch, you know, because everything up until, you know, a certain point, I want to say around, you know, 40, 50K a month, everything was working. But all the hires that we made were kind of there just to sort of fill holes, and it wasn't built to scale. So they were just there, they were kind of fulfilling, but as we'd sign on new clients, there was no sort of structure in place to allow for that. So sort of, bringing it back down, bringing the revenue back down, hovering at a certain level, and then, fixing all of the operations. And now, obviously, in the last couple of months, we've made a really big push to scale, and we've hit close to a 6-figure month. That's on the horizon. And yeah, just continuing to push, and hopefully we get there either this month or next month. So
yeah, it's been huge, honestly, because like I said, I think it's much better to be able to say, far out, I really wanted to quit when it was looking hard. I'm like, holy moly, that was like the worst thing ever. Because then when you get to points like this, when you can kind of look back and reflect, you almost don't realize at the time what it took and what was going through your head, like how shit it feels when it's not going.
And
well.
that's the thing, when you're in the thick of it as well, you can't, it's really, really difficult to see past that, because you're looking ahead of you. And you mentioned, because I'll be honest about this, I called Leo one night and I was really honest about like wanting to make a pivot back into e-com, because everything was kind of just piling on my shoulders with the agency thing. And I was like, man, I just want something that's more higher leverage. You look at the other business models, you see all of the things that, are so great about that, you know what I mean? And all of the downfalls, because you're really going through the thick of it and you think this is so much better. It's a classic case of shiny object syndrome. And, I called Leo one night and I was having this conversation with him, and, a bit of tough love on your end. You were very harsh, and you told me exactly how it was, and that's exactly what I needed at the time. And you were just brutally honest and saying like, man, like this is, you're just painfully aware of the problems that exist right now. You know what I mean? Like this business model, I'm sure if you talk to people over there that are at the same level in that business model, they're going to be saying the exact same shit. And you just need to make a plan in order to fix it all up. So yeah, man, it's just one of those things when you're in the thick of it, you really feel it. But as long as you just sort of create a plan and consistently show up every day and do the right things, you know what I mean? There's another high that's coming just around the corner,
Yeah, 100%. And so when was that? So we chatted on the phone that night when you were pretty much cracking the shits.
Yeah.
When was that? Was that it was earlier this year, probably about 3 months ago, no?
Yeah, I'd say so, 3-4 months ago.
So that was about 3-4 months ago. And to my knowledge, we are at or around about like 40K, 50K, or you'd kind of come up and then come back down.
Yeah, it was hovering anywhere between like 30K. I think on the top month, we might have did 60K within, a 3-month period. So, so it was quite up and down, right?
Right.
But yeah, about that level.
Yeah. So it's an interesting point. So you'd kind of, I think it's a good point to touch on, where you kind of hit these maximum and minimum months where you fluctuate your revenue.
Yeah.
And you're almost, we were talking before we jumped on, you're almost kind of comfortable oscillating between those levels, because you're kind of, that's just the place you're comfy at.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, number one, the things that were stopping you from really like breaking out of that kind of invisible hand that's like hovering over you, that like what, like it just prevents you from doing anything further?
Yeah.
What do you think you have to unlock there?
It's a good question. I think for me, it was really just taking a step back and taking the time to identify what's the actual constraint of the business, having a look like where are we falling short, because we would try to scale and it just wouldn't happen. And for me, it's never really been a leads issue. Like we get leads and we want to run cold emails and we run ads, we get a good amount of leads. And I think, stepping back and sort of taking, a week, 2 weeks to really sort of assess what's happening within the business, slowing down a little bit, it became very, very clear that the issue was, just technical business skill and operation and actually building a team. Because like the leads were coming in, like we were getting leads, that wasn't a problem. The problem would be is we'd sign a bunch of clients and then we'd lose some because we can't keep up with the delivery of the service, right? And really understanding that and understanding what the actual constraint is and taking the time to actually assess it, have a look at your metrics, see where you're falling short, because it's really easy just to point the finger at one thing and say, that's the problem. You know what I mean? It's like, like when it's not getting enough leads, like let's just run more ads or, do more cold email or whatever it might be. But oftentimes, like if you don't actually take the time to look at and assess the metrics and see where it's actually going wrong, it's the wrong judgment. So 100%. For me, it was sort of really just getting clear about what's the actual constraint and then making a growth plan or a plan based on that. So it was all of my 3-month, 4-month sprints in the past have all been about acquisition. It's like, okay, cool, we're going to do this, we're going to do this system, this to bring in this many clients. But I never really had to look like externally, had to look at the business and be like, like the operations aren't, holding up. So I made a plan from there, but the plan wasn't necessarily revenue. In fact, I pretty much accepted that we're going to fall off in terms of revenue for a couple of months just while we fix everything. But the plan was more so around operations and building a team and, getting really clear on what the internal of the business should actually look like. And then from there, once that's fixed, like I said, we never really had an issue with getting leads. Now we're at a point last couple of months, obviously turn on ads, running a bunch of cold email. We've just obviously, thrown fuel on the fire and, things have just gone up from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, you love to hear it. I think it's probably something that under talked about again. What do you think the 2 to 3 things were that really kind of unlocked the bottleneck? Because I agree, like when I looked at your business and I was thinking, like, fuck, why aren't we going? Because we've got kind of a bunch of clients that are in email marketing. We're pretty experienced in that niche. Yeah. And I always thought you could be at 6-figure months in no time. Yeah. And I was always thinking, fuck, what's the constraint? And I was almost in the same boat as yourself. Yeah. So what do you think were the things that when you eventually did them operationally, you kind of ended up having the time to be able to run ads and having the time to manage your cold emails and hire the salespeople you need to hire? Yeah.
I think for me, it really came down to building a really solid project management tool, because everything we ran was just pretty much like run and gun, been built on the fly as we were scaling. It wasn't rock solid. It was confusing. Team members would come to us and ask like, hey, what's this project? What's this? It just wasn't streamlined at all. So that's one piece of it. Actually building a proper project management tool to allow us to get ahead on all of the work that we were doing. So now all of our client work is at least, 2-3 weeks ahead, which means we have that breathing room. That's one part of it. And then the other part of it as well is having a look at obviously the structure of the team and putting the right players in place. And for me, it was building the business based around roles, not specific team members, because obviously we were chatting before. Like I said, everything up until that 30 to 60 when we were fluctuating there, everybody on the team was kind of there just to plug holes as we were scaling. So as obviously with scale, it's like, oh, this is kind of falling apart. We'll just throw someone at that. Someone that can do all of it and sort of just manage it, which is fine up until a certain point. But it just wasn't built to scale because everything was built around specific people within the business. So the switch that we made was really sort of, having a look at it and, instead of like building around specific people, it's building around specific roles. So that pod structure where I was like, okay, we have a copywriter, designer, and account manager, and having those as the roles. And then from there, if team members leave, whatever it might be, we can just plug other people in because it's built around roles and SOPs. Right? The project management stuff, and obviously just getting ahead on all the work as well is probably what's been allowed me to take a step out of the business personally and focus more on the cold email, the acquisition stuff, and all the ads that we're running right now.
Yeah. So project management, that's a super easy one. Like if I was recommending to anyone running an agency, I'll be saying you need some sort of templated project plan because inevitably when you have a client, they come in and everyone's business is a special snowflake where they need custom shit every single time. There's always something custom. So if you don't have 98% of it or 99% of it completely templated, you're not going to have the bandwidth or the ability to customize it necessarily to certain people's businesses. That's when you have clients getting, oh, this isn't on brand or whatever it is, especially with email. Yeah. And then what was number 2 was the pod structure. Again,
pod structure.
That's a super strong insight. 100%. Just kind of having generalists and then moving into specialists as you scale. I think that's a really easy takeaway. 100% necessary. And then number 3 was
just, what was it? It was again the pod structure. I think just to expand on that.
Was it like routine almost?
Routine, yes, and doing the right things on a daily basis as well. And also with the pod structure thing as well, I feel like for me it was just, again, building the business based around roles. Like this is something that, someone that I was consulting with that also ran an email agency made very clear. It's like you want to build the business around specific roles. So, account manager, designer, copywriter, not people. Because like when you build around people and this core person is needed to run the business, that's where you leave yourself open to just, someone leaves, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, you know what I mean? You're kind of looking at it, it's like, whoa, like I've got all this work on my plate. And we went through that. Like I had a core team member leave and, and the same time one of my core designers went on holiday and it was just a week for me, honestly, it was hell. It was like me doing all of the work and filling all the work. But I knew like I had that clear roadmap at that point. So I was able to bear it because I knew, okay, cool, going to make this key hire. This person's going to come back in and then, we'll be good from there. And that's kind of what we did. So yeah, I think the pod structure, yes. And also just to put on top of that as well, building the business around specific roles within the business as well.
Yeah. And I remember what you said. You said getting 2 to 3 weeks ahead. Yeah. So it's kind of a standards thing almost like internally just be like, some people might say this project's going to take 7 days. Yeah. Other people might come and say it's going to take a month. Yeah. We might come in and say it's going to be done in 3 days. Exactly. That's just what we do. Yeah. So I think that's an important thing that you get to decide how far ahead you're meant to be and what's normal and what's accepted in the company. So I think being very intentional about that is super important from the get-go. Because I know
I agree.
For yourself, like fulfillment and operations has always been such a big focus.
100%.
And it's like you almost feel anxious if something's not right. So having that in place is super, super important. But let's take a bit of a pivot. So you've gone from unlocking operations, going back down to sort of like 30K a month in just a couple of months. And then you've kind of just immediately expanded past your previous all-time highs, like it was a slingshot.
Yeah.
So what do you think the main key things that you've focused on that have allowed you to just kind of just go like that and almost scale? It seems like overnight, but it's obviously not.
Exactly, yeah.
Overnight.
On the actual acquisition side of things, so obviously, you know, probably 2-3 months ago, we were at a point where we had all the operations dialed in, all the team was, you know, really sort of locked in, really solid. And pretty much from there, like my daily routine switched from, you know, kind of fixing everything, new project management tool, getting on, you know, calls with potential team members, you know, hiring, that kind of thing, to kind of switching and be like, okay, that's really sort of rock solid. Now, obviously it's not perfect and every day it's still changing and we're trying to improve that system every single day. But it was good enough to be in a spot where I was comfortable, the client results were there. I was like, cool, now we can really make a pivot and focus on the acquisition and marketing side of things. And it was still going on, obviously all the acquisition stuff while we were making those changes internally within the business. But it wasn't obviously operating at the level that allow us to, you know, double our revenue in a month, right? Yeah. So, you know, probably 2-3 months ago, had all of that sorted. That's when we really started, you know, focusing on just executing on the right things every single day. And me personally sort of taking a step away from the operations side of things and really focusing on you know, the core pillars that are, you know, driving leads. So our ads, our emails, and referral partnerships as well. And getting just really focused on what it is I need to do every single day in order to ramp all of these things up over time. And, you know, over the last sort of 2 to 3 months, you know, the ads are going great. We're, you know, probably booking at least sort of 5 to 6 calls a week. And that's really, you know, it puts me in a position to be able to hand select the clients that we want to take on, you know, the ones we can get really great case studies for. And then, man, it's honestly like once it's all in place and everything's working, it's kind of just letting time elapse and doing your thing and, you know, signing the deals until things break, you know, refreshing new ads, writing new cold email scripts and just doing the boring work, you know, same stuff every day, new ads, new cold email scripts, new leads, and just kind of letting it go, man. And again, and I'm sure it's going to happen, you know, you'll reach an operational bottleneck where the system that I've now built is not, you know, built to scale any further. And, you know, you kind of repeat the cycle again as you go and fix it up and then go on another sprint. So,
yeah. That makes a ton of sense. I always sort of say that, like when you're doing the right things, it's not really glamorous.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to get a routine. And if you can't get a routine, you kind of have to that's almost the thing you have to focus on. If you don't have time, that's the thing you have to focus on, and then you unlock your time and then kind of figure out what you have to do from there.
Yeah.
But
and it's not a case where like when you're focusing on other parts of the business other than acquisition, you're stopping doing the outreach stuff. Like we were still signing clients through that period where we were sort of focusing on the operation side of the business. It's just like, you're not going to achieve like I said, a crazy sort of double in revenue 1 month. You know, if you know, a lot of your time is going towards that. So you never want to stop it because you always need that consistent lead flow coming in to, you know, sustain the business. But, you know, it gets to a point where you really sort of make a full switch where most of your day then goes towards, you know, actually signing new clients and acquiring new clients and doing the things to do that. So, yeah. Yeah,
100%. But I think one of the most impressive things about the last couple of months is that you've obviously set yourself up to scale, but you've also set yourself up to scale very, very profitably. Like,
yes.
I think you're probably aware in the agency space, when you do start scaling up to those 6-figure months, those multi-6-figure months, a lot of agencies really destroy their margin.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the founder's kind of sitting there like, holy shit, like what was even the point of scaling? I was making more money when I was making 50K a month and just had like one team member.
Yeah.
So what do you think the key things have been that have let you keep the margins so healthy? Because I think, what did you say it was?
I think last month we probably held around 75% net margins.
It's pretty juicy. That's a juicy margin. There's a lot of people that would love a 75%.
Which is good.
Off the top.
Yeah, it's good considering where we came from, because obviously the revenue increased and whilst the margin also increased as well. And I think that's just like a testament to going back and fixing up those operations, getting really clear about the roles. And then also another massive thing as well has been squeezing the LTV from every single client as well. So like not only going out and signing those new clients, but making more profitable the clients that we do have. And, you know, adding different services and stuff like that. So a big part of that's been adding a CRO partner that, you know, 4 or 5 of our clients have plugged into, which is just obviously a bit extra on the retainer every month. And then I think honestly, man, it's just again, like what I said, it's just getting really clear on the roles of the business and just tracking everything, having all of your expenses tracked, knowing where everything's at, and just not overspending, because like it gets so easy, you know what I mean? When you got all these expenses going out every single day, to lose sight on where you got $1,000 going out here, $2,000 going out here, and you know what I mean. If you're not actively looking at it, you can just sort of slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a mix of things, like getting really clear on the team structure and just like just tracking. I think
Just tracking. Doing the basics, partnerships,
stuff.
Just across the board, I think.
And also like adding in other stuff, like we were talking about as well, like obviously a referral partnership with one of the companies that we use for SMS marketing. Just little sort of extra revenue streams within the agency that you can use to sort of liquidate the costs on things. So if you can make an extra 20, 25 grand a month from a partnership you have with an agency or a software tool, it's like that can go a long way. You know what I mean? That almost covers your team expenses for the month. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just liquidating your expenses in that way with other revenue streams other than just like client stuff.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like typically the agency model is very heavy on you sell a recurring service, you sell your email marketing, $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, whatever.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that is probably one of the most flawed ways of going about it. Because if you look at someone like Sabri Subi is a great example.
Yeah.
They've got a big agency here in Melbourne. Like, what percentage of his revenue is the book, webinar, mastermind? He's got a bunch of courses.
Yeah.
Like, probably has a course for agency model, probably has a course for e-com people.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think the profit on all that stuff is?
Exactly.
Because where the actual profit is the affiliates, the partners, the digital products, like all these different little things that you can pick up. That's where you cash in. That's where you actually put money here. So I think that's a super strong. It's a super strong.
Yeah, and it just makes all the client work that you do and all the stuff you get paid from clients to do that much more profitable. And that's something that we're still working on. You know what I mean? It's something that I've really trying to put more of a focus on now is just getting those extra income streams, not necessarily, to take the agency to the next level, but to just make everything that we're doing on the client side far more profitable. Yeah. I think that's really valuable. And it's something that's not really talked about as well. Like honestly, at the start of the year, like it's not even something that you think about because like scale an agency, it's just like, sign more clients. But it's like, if you can get 10% off this deal here, 10% from this company here, a referral partner paying you out X amount, it's like all of a sudden you're making some pretty good money without any extra work. Like that's real. People talk about passive income. That's real passive income because it's like you're getting paid for stuff that you don't do. It's like you shoot a client to someone and, they charge them a 10K retainer and you're getting paid 20% of that. It's $2,000 you're making a month for no work. And the client's going to stay with you longer as well because their results go up too, It's
one of the juiciest things in agency for sure, the partnership stuff.
Yeah, man, 100%, without a doubt. Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think with where you're at now, few partnerships rolling.
Yeah.
Obviously, revenue and profit have been going bonkers last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
When you sort of look ahead, what have you got on the menu next up that's going to really like not only keep you scaling, but just kind of keeping your current base? Because obviously, if you could be adding like 50K MRR every 2 months, you'd probably be like, all right, this is pretty cozy. You don't really have too many complaints. So what's the plan moving forward next sort of 3 to 6 months?
Man, it's a good question. I mean, right now, the way things are going, everything's kind of working with the acquisition stuff, that we've got going. So honestly, for now, like my plan is kind of looking like writing that out and just, really keeping everything going and moving forward as it is right now. And I'm sure we're going to get to a point where, obviously the operations side of things, we'll have to fix that up again. But for now, everything seems to be going really smoothly. We have the capacity to take on new clients. So it's just sort of writing that, seeing how far we can get until obviously we have to take, another internal look and have to pivot again back to sort of focusing on the operations side of things. But man, honestly, I think it's just letting time elapse, doing the right things every day, new ads, more cold emails, more scripts, and just letting it ride, man. Taking the sales calls as they come, taking the clients as they come, and then, eventually, like I said, we'll probably reach a plateau and we'll have to sort of look internally again, but it's just doing the same stuff. Yeah.
And then no shiny object syndrome as well.
No shiny object syndrome. We'll try not to.
So what are you gonna say next time you hit a revenue plateau for 3 months?
Oh man. No, that's the thing. Like I said, you just get caught in the thick of it. You can't really see past it. But what's the thing? Once you've been past it once and you go through it again, it's kind of like, well, you know what to expect now. You know that, that next all-time high, that next big revenue month is just around the corner. So it just makes it that much easier just to keep going.
Yeah.
And it's just an experience thing. It's like when you're inexperienced and you hit those plateaus, it's like,
it feels like death almost.
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
And it's not even like you're not making money. That's the thing. It's not that you're not making money. It's like, it's really true. And I'm sure that you felt this before as well, where it's like, if you're plateauing and you're not growing every month, it can be really, really painful as a business owner because all of a sudden it's like you're trying to grow and you're putting in more work than you were before. You're still making good money, like, on paper, But if you're not growing and you're not consistently, you know, beating your records, it's like, it can be really difficult to deal with.
You don't feel anything. You don't like feel any positive emotions.
Exactly, because you get desensitized to a certain amount of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're working 12 hours a day, every single day, and you're not growing, it's like, you know what I mean? It's going to be really difficult.
Yeah. It's just one of those ones where like you kind of have to just continually, you almost have to coach yourself through those sorts of moments. And if you haven't like got that, that experience where you've been through it before, you've been in that exact position, and you haven't ever coached yourself through something like that before, you've just got like, you've got no information. You're like, oh yeah, this is the way, because that's like the data that you have.
Yeah. And it's something that, you know, like when we were chatting that night, obviously about, you know, me potentially wanting to make a pivot, it's like, you know that, you know, shiny object syndrome's a thing, you know that, you know, you shouldn't do these things, whatever, but like, yeah, sometimes you just need that reminder and someone to actually sit there and tell you, and like, this is how it is. It's like, you can't, you know what I mean? Just stay on the path. You know, this is what's going to happen. Like, you just need that sort of external voice to tell you, because like, it's all well and good to sort of, you know, read the platitudes and, oh, yeah, shiny object syndrome, don't get caught up. But like, when you're in the thick of it, you kind of need someone there, like, this is it. Like this, you know, you got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing.
It is fucking hard as well. Because when we were chatting, I honestly thought, I was like, oh, this bloke's into econ. I was like, fuck, you put in so much work.
I was, bro, I'm not even kidding. I was this close. I was it was a very close decision. I mean, I'm open and I'm honest about that. Like I was nearly there, man. Like, and honestly, like, it's still probably a pivot I'm going to make sometime down the line. I think that's eventually where I want to go to. But I think for right now, where everything's going with the agency, everything's working, we're signing clients, it's a great business. It's profitable. You know what I mean? Like, yes, for sure there's flaws, but there's flaws in every business. And, you know, it's working right now. So we're just going to keep riding it until, you know.
Till the cows come home.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I said to you as well. Like, if you are looking to make a pivot, the only thing that I would say to someone is don't make a pivot from a position of weakness.
Yeah.
Get back in a position of strength. Get everything dialed in.
Yeah.
Because if you've got a business that's cash flowing like crazy and it's all very self-sustaining, do whatever you want. Like that's time to, you know, if you need to reassess and step back and figure out what you want from life, you do it then. You don't do it when you're like, fuck, why isn't this working? And you can almost, like when you look at it from a bird's eye view, you can look at that and say, yeah, of course, like it's hard. Like you said, you're very aware of the problems you have, but when you kind of open yourself up mentally by setting everything up, taking the step back, building back the right way, then you can assess with, you know, basically zero stress.
Exactly.
Compared to obviously when you...
It's just a more calculated decision as well, because it's like when you're operating out of that, you know, weakness, you know what I mean? You kind of, your mind's all over the place and you're not going to make like the most logical decision. It's like when you have sort of that abundance mindset and then you're looking to make a pivot, I agree. It's like you can make a much more calculated, more logical decision because you're not emotional about the decision. It's like when you make emotional decisions like that in business, you just get fucking flatlined. Just get flatlined. Like, I've seen it time and time again with, you know, guys that, you know, run up agencies and everything. Like, it's like, and it is difficult. Like, it is super, super hard. And that's another thing that nobody talks about. It's like, you know what I mean? You scroll Instagram, whatever, you see all these guys making money, but it's like, most of the time it's not even true. Like, it doesn't even exist. They're not even making the money. And another part of that as well, it's like, even if they are, it's like, you know what I mean? If they're flashing, you know, the lifestyle, whatever it might be, it's like, you really got to look in the weeds of what they're actually doing on the day to day, because it's not fun. It's not easy. And it's honestly quite boring. You know what I mean? It's waking up early, doing the same stuff every single day, getting to bed early, going to the gym, and, you know, doing that for, you know, long 3-4 month sprints. And then, you know, you might go enjoy yourself, you know, go on a little holiday for a week or 2 weeks and then, you know, get straight back into it. But that's the thing with business. If you're not growing, you know what I mean? You're going backwards.
Yeah, you're kind of dying.
That's it.
But yeah, I feel like that's a good point to leave off on. I guess my last question would be, obviously we started working together probably a larger capacity last year. That went till about, like September or something. Had a couple of months off, then obviously came into 1,000x leads as we launched it. So what would you say to someone that was kind of tossing up about 1,000x leads? I feel like a lot of people on the internet don't really know who we are.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, oh, well, like Matt just does all this weird stuff over there. Leo just kind of like in Australia, don't really hear from him much.
Yeah.
I guess what would you say to sort of give some insight into what it's actually been like over the journey?
100%. I mean, the stuff that the guys are teaching, it's not, you know what I mean? It's the reason I like 1,000x leads is because I've bought a bunch of coaching, and you know this. I'm not shy when it comes to spending my money on coaching, mentorship, whatever it is. Like, I think that's the most valuable thing. Like, because really what you're doing when you're buying coaching is you're buying back your time. It's like you're shortening that learning curve by learning from people with experience, right? And that's what I've obviously found working with you, with 1,000x leads. And I've bought a lot of it, and I've done a lot of coaching programs. You know, everything I've sort of learned something from. But the thing I like about you guys is it's all really principles-based stuff. It's like oftentimes when you buy into these coaching programs, it's a lot of really sort of nitty-gritty tactical stuff that's working in like 2 to 3 month sprints, like this cold email script, you know, this cold email tactic. This is how you want to do your spin tax. You know what I mean? This style of ad, like specifically do this ad. Whereas like the stuff that you guys are teaching, which is what I found that's really powerful, is it's all really based on the fundamentals of marketing and it's principles-based stuff rather, you know, tactical stuff, like really, you know, nitty-gritty, you know, like, oh, use this hack, use this trick. It's like, no. Like, it's just doing the right things consistently over time. And then the way you guys lay that out in the terms of a roadmap as well, it's like a 3 month sprint. It's like, here's what you do on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. For me, was really valuable because where I always struggled with coaching programs was you'd get in, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, you just get the kitchen sink thrown at you. It's like, this course, this course, these 30 calls in a week, and it's like, you're just looking at like, well, this is way too much. I've got to do my cold email setup. I've got to buy, you know, how many domains? Like 50, warm them up. What's that? You know what I mean? And it's just system overload. Whereas you guys, you map it out really clearly. It's like, okay, day 1, here's what we're doing. And it's actual stuff that you can do while still running the business. Because it's like, you know, some coaching programs, you know, it's like, oh, 6 to 7 hours a day dedicated to this. And it's like, well, you still got a business to run. You still got clients, you got teams, you still got calls you got to jump on. Where it's like the way you guys lay it out really clearly, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, over the course of, you know, 3-4 months, however long it might be, that has been probably the best part. And then that obviously makes sure the principal stuff. The coaching calls are really valuable because it's, you know, actual actionable stuff. It's not just like, you know, Q&A every week. It's like you guys are bringing stuff to the calls. Yeah, probably just a mix of all that stuff. But yeah, I bought a lot of coaching, but 1,000x leads probably, I'd say, is the best coaching that I bought. Yeah.
I love to hear it. That's you know, it warms the heart.
You guys are doing a good thing, man. And obviously Matt's got a ton of experience as well. It's like, you know, if you're going to learn from someone in the agency space, you want to learn from someone that's, you know, done it, you know.
Yeah. I even say to people, I'm like, even if you think I'm a fuckwit, you probably have to put some respect on Matt.
Yeah.
Like bare minimum.
Well, that's kind of what me got. Not even like, you know, no hate, but that's what got me to fucking buy into 1,000x leads, because like you shared me a couple of Matt's case studies, whatever, and then, you know, I think I was one of the early members of it, and like he's like, oh yeah, we're just going to charge this for, you know, the first few members, and you'd be stupid not to learn directly, get on calls with them, like, you know, the guys walk the walk, and it's hard to find these days in the coaching space. Guys that are actually doing it.
I know it's very rare, but. Yeah, I'm super excited for what's to come, not only for 1,000x leads for yourself, and for all the clients, because
appreciate it, man.
We're cooking on some good stuff here. And you know, when you're on a roll like what you're on right now, like the only way you can mess it up is by just doing anything different.
Yeah,
so I agree. Like that's the only thing. Just stay the course. Don't do anything different.
Yeah,
stay inside. Get in the trench.
That's it. Not fucking off to Bali for 6 weeks.
Yeah, no Bali trips, no Dubai.
Yeah, stay away from that.
Yeah, just.
Stay away from all the Fugazi stuff. Yeah, I agree, man. That's the plan. That's the plan for, you know, probably the next 12 months at least anyway. So just see where it takes us. I don't know. Maybe we can sit down again in 12 months' time and see where we're at.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I guess if you had a final message for everyone or anyone that was sort of, I don't know, because I feel like we probably have a lot of people that watch the stuff and they're almost looking for that bit of like motivation or that thing that just kind of gets them over the hump, from whether it's like their first 5K month or, you know, pushing through to 500K a month.
Yeah.
So what would your final message be?
Final message, man, it's a good question. I don't know. I feel like, because like giving advice, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, you know, like who am I to sort of give advice? But I feel like I'll sort of just say what's helped me a lot is just like executing on the things that you know you need to do. And it's 9 times out of 10, it's not the fun stuff. It's the painful stuff. It's the stuff you don't want to do. It's the cold calls, it's the recording it's the, you know, recording the ads, the content, writing the cold email scripts, the really boring stuff. It's usually what's going to take you to the next level is the stuff that you know you should be doing that you're not doing. And, you know, oftentimes people wait until it's too late. So I think it's just getting really clear on, you know, like what you say, the 3 to 5 activities you can do every single day that's going to push you to the next level, and just setting that as a baseline standard, whether you're not making any money, whether you're making 5K a month, 10K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month. I think the core principle of that pretty much stays exactly the same. It's pretty hard to lose if you just do the right things and execute it every single day. over a long period of time. Yes, you're going to have ups. Yes, you're going to have downs. You're probably going to have a day where, you fall short of your standards. That happens. But over the long run, if you can just consistently execute on the right activities, I think that's honestly like the hack or the recipe to success. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the greatness is in just consistent execution.
Doing the right things every single day, because everything compounds. It's like, it's hard to get off the ground when you have no momentum, because you really got to push to get the sales calls coming through, the systems going. It's really, really hard. And that's another thing as well. Once things are going well, it's just throwing more fuel on the fire and just continuing to double down and do more inputs and more and more and more. And, eventually, obviously, keep doing that until the wheels fall off a little bit, and then, reassess and then go again. But it's just as simple as doing the right stuff every single day, consistently, forever.
And then it starts working, and you're like, holy shit, this is pretty good.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. It's hard when you start. It's hard when if you're not making anything and you're trying to get an agency off the ground, you don't know anything. It's difficult. It's just like, it just completely goes against your human nature, because you just have to brute force your way to a certain point. It's really, really difficult. But like you said, once it starts working, you know what I mean? That's when that motivation kicks in, and you're really excited to wake up and do everything every day, because finally you're seeing the fruits of your labor, and things really start to come together. But yeah, it's a lot of work getting to that point, and it continues to happen as well. Like it never stops. Whether you start and you're making 100K a month, it's like, you always go on those sprints where you just sort of have to dedicate every single hour of every single day to sort of getting to the next level, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good place to leave it. I couldn't put it any better myself. You kind of have to
do the stuff.
If you feel like shit, just listen to that again and then just
do the work.
And then just,
as simple as it gets, just do the shit that makes the money. That's it.
Exactly. It's stuff that makes money. And I think we could all be doing a bit more of that.
Yeah, 100%.
Rather than sitting on a podcast on a Saturday afternoon. But anyway, that's pretty much all for today.
That's funny, man.
If you guys want to join 1,000x Leads, there'll be a link somewhere. I'm sure you're not too incapable to find a link somewhere, so I'll leave you with that. And yeah.
Lovely, man.
Hopefully you enjoyed that.
It was good chatting. Yeah.
Beautiful.